right? Hello, I'm Tara Brabazon. I'm the Dean of Graduate Research at Flinders University, and welcome to Vlog 195.
195.
How to forge your own path. This is the Christmas vlog. This is the Christmas vlog. These are always fun gigs, and we started this tradition, I think, for our first Christmas that we all shared, where I bring a person of wonderment and fabulousness to you to remind us all that great stuff does happen in international higher education, and great scholarship can transform us, can transform the world. And look, we need these sort of reminders every now and again because, let's be honest, most of our days are pretty mediocre, banal, bad stuff happens, and we wonder exactly why we're enrolled in a PhD program. I really get that. But every now and again, something or someone comes along and reminds us of the light and the energy and the change that can be part of truly transformative knowledge. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. I'll either cry or laugh our way through it, by the way.
Yeah, right.
So, Dr. Tristan Kennedy is lecturer in Indigenous Studies, also with a great leadership role in higher education and higher degrees at his particular department, which is in Macquarie University, Department of Indigenous Studies. And hi to everyone there. You are wonderful, wonderful colleagues. It is a wonderful, wonderful department in this country, and we are so lucky to have you, and you're very lucky to have him. We had also the pleasure of our Tris working at Flinders University, and he recently completed a PhD with us. And we are incredibly fortunate that he chose us and that we graduated him earlier this year. This man is remarkable.
Thanks.
Remarkable. And hang on to yourself, because if you want something fabulous for Christmas, I've brought you Tristan. So look, he's a wonderful, wonderful human being and a friend of mine, a great friend of mine. And
Indeed.
we worked out, we've now known each other just over 1 year. We think it might be a year and a month.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
And it feels a lot longer
Yeah.
than that.
A lot's going on.
A lot's gone on, and that's sort of what we're going to talk about, because it is about forging your own path. And I've used the word forging in a particular important way involving question one. Tris, look, congratulations, amazing PhD, took the greatest examiners in the world, gave it an A and a B, some of the greatest music scholars in the world, so just incredible, remarkable thesis. So let's do the usual handball question. Tell us about the thesis.
The thesis entitled Writing on the Wall, Hypermasculinity in the Online Metal Scene. So it kind of came out of an interest in heavy metal music myself, something I share with my brother who's played in a lot of heavy metal bands. My late father was a big fan of heavy metal, actually quite surprising when I went and saw his collection of Megadeth and Pantera and Sepultura and all these sort of bands when I thought he was into Carly Simon, you know.
Can I just say, what a great genetic ancestry you have. Megadeth, fantastic.
Yeah. So I kind of grew up around this sort of music, and I noticed that there was a different kind of masculinity going on in these places. I actually started doing research at venues, at shows, those sorts of things, and I kind of thought this would be really interesting. What a great opportunity to travel around the country going to metal shows for your thesis, right?
What an ethnography. What an ethnography, yeah.
I very quickly learned that no one really wanted to talk to me while we were backstage at Thebarton Theatre or, you know, in hotel rooms after the show. They didn't really want to talk about hegemonic masculinity. But they all said, let's catch up.
Look, I'm stunned. I'm stunned.
I know, who'd have thought, right?
Who'd have thought, mate?
Yeah. But they all wanted to catch up online. And so they kind of gave me all of these links to online forums, to Facebook pages, YouTube, Bandcamp, SoundCloud, all these sorts of spaces. And so I went and caught up with them on there, and that's when I kind of noticed that the kind of interaction between digital communication technology and this thing that I noticed that was quite kind of uniquely masculine in the metal space was kind of, something was going on there. And so I thought that's really interesting, and that's kind of where I went.
and so important in so many ways. Firstly, it is the greatest popular music thesis I've read in a couple of decades. So, because popular music and popular culture has suffered dreadfully, I think, in the last 20 years. We talk about this a lot, and it breaks my heart, it used to break my late husband's heart enormously that popular cultural studies seemingly left the building. And then this remarkable man appeared in our lives with this incredible thesis and did remarkable things. So firstly, brought back some of the more unpopular parts of popular music, which I particularly love. So it's like the popular music that people pretend isn't popular because it's like, but it's like incredibly popular. But also it's dealing with masculinity, and this is really the time for a man, not through a feminist lens necessarily, a man to explore masculinity, and that's important. And then, as we talked about through your thesis, hegemony is back as a paradigm, and it was tortured in the 1970s and the 1980s in cultural studies, really badly handled, and it was sort of Gramsci versus Althusser, and that was a false binary and all this stuff. And you brought back some really robust and interesting and modern post-GFC theorisation of hegemony. So these remarkable intellectual streams came together for this thesis.
Yeah, that was, I mean, I guess thanks to some advice from yourself, as well as having a look at Perry Anderson's, I think 2017 they were both published.
They were.
Yeah, books on Gramsci and hegemony. And kind of, I guess he kind of went back and looked at the roots of the concept of hegemony, and actually the second book, I can't remember the name of it, I wish I could now that we're on camera, but there was one book where he kind of looked at the concept. There was another one where he actually kind of applied it in the context of today.
Yes.
It follows on really nicely, or undergirds, I guess, your Trump Studies book, in a sense, as well.
Look, it does, and I think there's something really powerful for those of us that are interested in the big ideas, and you are, and I hope everybody out there, this is the time for big ideas. And it is important, I think, to go back to get rid of the nonsense, to sand down all the nonsense that happened through the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, sand that stuff down and see what have we actually got. Let's start with the concept and build it back up for our present and our purposes. And you've done that magnificently. So this is a great model, I think, for people out there. So what a thesis. But before we get back to the thesis and the research itself, we do probably need to talk about supervisors. Now, you went through some supervisors.
Ooh, we had a few, yeah.
Like a date through a body, let's just put that out there. You went through some supervisors. So looking back on it now with some humour for the Christmas vlog, what went right? What went wrong? What happened?
I guess, I mean, it's a bit of a long story, as you know. But, I started off here at Flinders in 2012 with the idea that, 3 years later or so, I'd be kind of nearing completion or complete.
Yep.
I had a wonderful supervisor to start with in Dr. Mary Holmes from sociology, who's now at Edinburgh University.
Wonderful university, wonderful scholar.
Mary got this wonderful job over in Edinburgh and went over there, and I couldn't go at that time, and I'm still genuinely happy for her. There was absolutely no hard feelings about that decision. Why wouldn't you take that job, right? Yeah. So anyway, I was kind of left in a department at Flinders that was kind of, it had just undergone a bit of a change where a whole bunch of people had left. There were very few academics working in that department at the time. Yeah. And so I kind of had a supervisor who, for one, I mean, this isn't meant to sound kind of horrible, but was the next best fit.
Yes.
Was someone
so
who...
it's sort of like you've been dumped by number one boyfriend, and then you sort of got his ugly stepbrother, hoping that's going to be a good fit. Is that sort of the parallel, do you think, Tress?
Yeah, I think maybe that could be...
Yeah, the next best fit. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard.
And I think, at the start of that kind of supervisory relationship, things were going really well. I guess with any supervisor change, you're going to come up against different theoretical, methodological kind of bents or approaches, I guess. And so my first and my second supervisor had quite different methodological approaches to research. And so I got sort of stuck for a couple of years thinking about methodology and how my initial kind of plan or approach now was going to be changed. And I got really interested in Howard Becker, actually.
Yeah.
if anyone's reading Howard Becker or has read Howard Becker, you know it's very easy to kind of start with one and then just get stuck reading Becker for months and months and months.
There's an evangelical commitment when you're in that zone.
Yeah,
It just makes complete sense and it fills your entire world. I do get that.
And so I'm sort of exploring all different types of methods and things. Probably about 2 years in, decided to go part-time because I felt I was kind of sort of treading water a little bit.
Yeah.
I also went down the kind of Indigenous methodologies path. That was based on my own personal background as a Noongar Australian.
Yes.
My family are Davises from Western Australia, from Perth.
And as a Western Australian, can I say it's beyond respect, sir?
Yeah.
Beyond respect.
And that was really interesting. I really I was attracted to not only the fact that it was Indigenous methodology, but that I think Indigenous methodology can offer us a whole lot in the way of academic rigour.
Huge.
Huge. Much the same as feminist methodologies.
Yeah.
You start asking critical questions about, who's there, who's not, whose voices get privileged, whose voices don't. And so I kind of went down that path, and I think that's sort of when there wasn't really the supervision in the department, I guess, or in the supervisor relationship I had, to go down that path. And so I ended up sort of coasting and drifting off a bit by myself.
Yes.
Yeah, it was an interesting time, and I've kind of, I don't know, it's helped me in my future career, or my now career, I guess, that I've spent so much time reading Indigenous standpoint theories and those sorts of things. And then I suppose the next step was that I got a job here, full-time, level A, at Yungarandi, which was then the First Nations Centre for...
Was it teaching and learning? Did they put teaching and
Yeah, I
learning?
can't remember.
I think
They changed it a few times.
Yeah.
It's now the Office of Indigenous Strategy and Engagement.
Indeed. And a wonderful office it is.
Yeah, and I worked with some wonderful people there, and that, I guess, helped me kind of continue on down that path.
Yes.
The relationships there were collegiate, they were fun, they were fruitful.
Productive.
Yeah, but I still, in terms of supervision, I was on my own.
Yeah.
That was kind of... That pretty much led from 2015 up to catching up with you in, what was it, October, November last year, 2018?
2018. But I mean, I think that story about the coasting or the drifting, I've never heard anyone express it that evocatively. But I mean, time just goes, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Standing out by the lake, thinking, what's happening? When am I going to finish? and also thinking, am I doing the right thing? I was pretty confident in my own ability to kind of just persevere. I sort of felt like, a lot of things in my life I've kind of helped myself a little bit, and so I thought, I've got a background in teaching. I've done the wonderful HDR supervision training with yours truly.
The first time I ran it, should we actually tell that story too?
Yeah, go on.
The first time we ran it, no I can't because I'll get upset, but the first time we ran it, so I just arrived, off the bloody plane, and 2 months later I'm doing the first training. Can I say, all the older white guys were not terribly impressed to be doing training with a lady. But two of the people in that first group, I'd originally forgotten that Tris was in the group, but how I remembered him was my beloved late husband Steve Redhead made a political point. Remember, the most famous person probably in the country, decided he was going to do the training delivered by his missus to make a point about all of us as supervisors need to stay up to date and need to do the training. And unbelievably, and obviously, he died. Tris never met Steve again. Tris was sitting next to Steve. Gets a bit weird, doesn't it? Sitting next to Steve for that training. And that's how I suddenly twigged, because I remember this very handsome man sitting next to my husband. I went, my God, it was Tris. And of course, you on the car ride home, suddenly realised the guy that introduced himself as, hi Tris, I'm Steve.
Yeah.
The pennies dropped that it was Steve Redhead. And of course, Steve's work had been used throughout Tris's thesis.
Yeah, it was amazing. Unreal.
That's a bit, I mean, it's...
Yeah. And how was I to know that, in a matter of years, you and I'd be sitting here doing these vlogs?
It's just...
Working together on theses.
On theses and everything else, and just like a lifetime of interest and careers and stuff in front of us as much as what's behind us. So it's incredibly inspirational. But let's talk about inspiration a little bit further. Let's talk family. You've got the best partner in the known and unknown universe in our Evie. And you had, in the final year, and thankfully it was the final year of your PhD, you had a truly beautiful daughter, Audrey.
Audrey Pepper.
Now, I'm just going to do a bit of an Audrey moment, because my relationship with Audrey involves the two of us staring at each other for some minutes. So, hi, Audrey. Gorgeous. So, right, so that's one of the reasons or characteristics of people that leave a PhD program. They have a great relationship and have a baby. So how did you manage great relationship and baby in the final year of your PhD and it went okay? What did you do?
You know, we've talked about this a few times, I guess, and it's more we managed the PhD. Evie, Audrey and me managed that PhD. I had lost my job here at Flinders, and I found a job over at Macquarie University in Sydney. Now, we had a baby on the way. We just bought some property in Adelaide. We kind of thought this was all going full steam ahead here in Adelaide, and all of a sudden I'm a FIFO academic flying over to Sydney.
37 flights this year?
37, I think. Yeah,
37 flights this year alone, FIFO academic.
Yeah. I couldn't have done it if, you know, there was, I actually spoke to a very dear friend of mine in Heather Brook, who sadly passed away earlier this year. She was a senior lecturer here in Women's Studies. And she said to me on the phone one day, she said, you know, Tris, as soon as it doesn't work for Evie, as soon as it doesn't work for Audrey, as soon as it doesn't work for you, you just make a decision to change. And that's always been in the back of my head that, you know, if it's not working, it's not working. But Evie's been incredible to support me, to look after Audrey while I'm away. And, you know, then I come back, I have a quick meeting with Tara, and then for the next 2 weeks I'm in front of the computer 7 days a week finishing a thesis with, you know, noise cancelling headphones on and all that, being, you know, essentially selfish about the whole process. And I don't know many people that would have put up with that.
And, you know, I've always said, people sort of laugh at me a little bit about it because we have this sort of rogue single male version of academic life. But I always say, when we supervise an entire family. So, you know, Evie and Audrey were in this office.
Yeah, they love coming in.
We loved having them in. But that's a great example of, you know, this is sacrifice. This is family, deep sacrifice in the final year of a PhD with a baby. I mean, and you know, you're thinking you're having a bit of a difficult year. I mean, it's incredible, but again, it's about, as Heather said to you so evocatively, and what a remarkable woman she was. We lost her this year, for which we're devastated.
Yeah.
But she was right, because it's got to work. And look, all sorts of models of life and family and work and relationships operate effectively.
Yeah.
And the only thing you've got to do is call it when it doesn't.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, of course, as you've just specified too, you did the other thing that is the ticker box, you won't finish this PhD, because you started a new job in the final year of so it's like how to not finish a PhD.
Yeah.
So you also then started a new job at a wonderful university, so top end of town, Macquarie, big job, new job, new teaching, new responsibilities, research expectations, new colleagues. Tell us about how you managed that.
Again, I'm pretty lucky. I think, you know, I don't choose to surround myself with brilliant people. I just kind of happen upon them.
You're a brilliance magnet, Chip.
Yeah. Look, I think, I mean, in Macquarie, I mean, the kudos there has to go to Professor Bronwyn Carlson, my colleague and the head of department, who, as an Indigenous scholar herself, is very interested in supporting other Indigenous scholars to kind of get through, to get through the ranks, to navigate a system that's, you know, not set up really for anybody to get through. So yeah, I started work over at Macquarie, and immediately, you know, I sat down in my office and was given time to work on my thesis as part of the kind of research load. Not that there wasn't a whole bunch of other stuff in terms of publications and things going on. We do quite a bit of work over in that space, but yeah, I mean, I was really lucky to be supported in a new job, to be able to spend essentially the first year finishing a thesis.
And my respects to Bronwyn. And there's a lot of conversation about management in contemporary higher education. There is a huge difference between management and leadership. And Bronwyn exemplifies that difference.
Yeah.
She is a remarkable leader, makes me proud to be an Australian woman, actually, to watch her incredible leadership, and I learn so much from her every single day. And this is a great example. So you back somebody, you back a brilliant man, and you know what? Success follows. That's leadership.
Yeah, yeah. And success is happening. It's good. It's nice to see the kind of the fruits of our labour, I suppose.
And grants, all sorts of things are forthcoming.
Yeah.
You've had an incredible year. But look, I just want to go back to a sort of negative moment. I'm a bit of an old goth. The old goth. The old goth and the metalhead have a conversation. So the goth and metalhead went into a bar. So look, you've managed a lot of triumphs. This is a triumphant story, this one. But you've also managed some disappointments, and I must not get upset. Every time I've practiced this question, I get upset, so I must not get upset. But I think one of the greatest disappointments you've ever experienced, and I've taken this very deeply myself, is one of those former supervisors said to you that thesis, look, it probably is not a PhD, and it's maybe not even a master's. Now, 6 months after that person said that to you, you'd submitted a PhD, went through with an A and a B result from the 2 best popular music scholars in the world. So Tris, this is a moment for all of us as a family. Don't you get upset? If you get upset,
No,
I'm gone,
good.
mate.
I'm good.
You're good. You're good. How did you manage? I can look at you now. How did you manage that moment where someone did that? Said the unsayables. I would always say it's like, I'm just not sure you can do this. I'm just not. In fact, I don't think it's a PhD.
Yeah.
How do you manage that moment of horror, and get out of it?
Yeah. I guess. I don't know, I guess I'm sort of a bit stubborn. I guess I sort of didn't really, it wasn't what I wanted to hear, and I think I knew within myself that if I really kind of just kept at it, I mean, everyone tells you from day one PhD, it's a test of endurance. And I kept that sort of phrase and that advice going over and over in my head. And I thought, I can just keep going, and I'm sure I can do this, even in those moments of doubt. Yeah, being told that it's maybe just submit for an exit award or something's a bit sort of soul destroying. And I guess it's not the moment that you get told that. It's all the other little moments when you're really struggling to write in the morning, or you're looking at your to-do list and it's all admin tasks and you're not going to get any time for something, or you're not sure if what you've written's right. That comes back into your head and you go, maybe it is just a master's, or maybe not. I don't know, I guess you just kind of have to ignore that and move on. Have a bit of faith in yourself.
But it's extraordinary, isn't it? But the point is too, that I was thinking about at the gym actually this morning, is supervisors get it wrong a lot. And you've seen, as we've talked about as a family, all of us, supervisors have got it wrong. And when we as supervisors get it wrong, it can destroy a person's life. And how do we, I suppose it is, make people accountable for when they get it wrong. So when the unsayable is said, he won't finish, it's not a PhD, it might not be a master's, can we get some sort of exit degree out of it? This is a magnificent PhD. So this is just the extreme opposite of what is actually true. And I just don't know what we do with that gap in expectation. Yeah,
I don't know. I maybe I'm going a bit off here, but I guess I remember in high school being told by a biology teacher that I'd probably never amount to much, and that I was just kind of coasting and whatever. And that kind of was brought up again when I was told about the masters. But I think that maybe the way I kind of work, sometimes I am lazy. Sometimes you just can't do a bunch of stuff. Other times you do.
That's being human.
Yeah. But I guess I use that kind of thing as like, oh, I've been told no. All right, well, that challenge accepted. Let's go. Bring it on.
and that's why you finished.
Yeah.
That's why you finished. And I just wonder, the next question I'm asking, I didn't know these two questions would be linked, but I think they are. I've talked a lot in these vlogs, I talk a lot in my life about the importance of decolonising the doctorate. We're doing a very, very bad job in Australia about decolonising the doctorate. We're nowhere near even, post-coloniality. We're nowhere near that. And, we're doing a lot wrong. So Tris, help us. So the university is a colonising agent in the culture.
Yeah.
How can we create the spaces and the opportunities to even start the decolonising project? And feeding back, I suppose, to our last question, I wonder if the doubt from others comes from a deficit model of teaching and learning, that everyone's not, that's not a white man or a white woman, that we just assume, working class woman, all the rest of it, person with impairment and disabilities, trans, that, they're just not quite good enough. And has nothing to do with the work,
No.
but everything to do with the deficit model of teaching and learning and supervision.
Yeah, for sure.
Help us, mate.
Look, I think the answer to decolonising the doctorate or the academy even is, for me, kind of simple. I think we just employ more Indigenous people across the institution.
Spot on.
We don't employ Indigenous people only in equity units. We don't treat Indigenous studies departments as equity units. Indigenous people should have jobs in science and engineering, in computing and IT, business, finance, medicine, health, social sciences, humanities, the whole lot, across the board. I think when you have Indigenous people who are great scholars, and I've met so many in the last 3 weeks, and indeed in the last 7 or 8 years, that work across so many different disciplines, and have great publication records, have awesome abilities to attract grant funding and that sort of thing, brilliant minds that are wasted in equity units, and that can contribute alongside everybody, of course, within any discipline or within any college or school or whatever they're calling it at whatever institution. And I think for students coming through from undergrad through honours, masters, PhD, to see the kind of to see other Indigenous academics making it and making a difference, and also seeing these academics contributing to the direction of these departments as well.
Yeah.
Really means a hell of a lot for a student to see that kind of normalised, rather than having to sort of leave the faculty and head off down to the Indigenous Student Centre. Sometimes we call it here a Nunga room, or where you're kind of just isolated, and you get to kind of hang out together and share ideas and support each other as you tackle a kind of colonial institution. But still, you're on the outside, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, something I've been trying to do, obviously, with my beloved husband, Jamie Quinton, who adores Tris, is I think part of the white fella's job in this story is to demonstrate the absence or the lack of a consciousness. So when I've been talking with science and engineering, which is a great example, it's like asking the obvious question: why are there no Indigenous students here?
Yeah.
Why are there no Indigenous students in physics? And just start there. So what is happening that's not even available as a problem or an issue to discuss? So what do we have to do to raise that as a consciousness issue before we even do the pedagogy, andragogy, school, university relationships? And actually just say, how are you not aware that that's not even a problem?
Yeah.
Why are we at that stage?
Yeah, it's strange. I've heard academics from physics departments, when talking about indigenising curriculum, say, well, we teach physics. How would we include Indigenous knowledges in that? Physics is the hard, true, objective, science. And in response to that, I mean, you just have to go and look at people like Dr. Chris Matthews and Kirsten Banks, the Indigenous astronomer. Chris Matthews is a great mathematician and uses Indigenous knowledges to teach mathematics. Absolutely. Generally in primary and secondary education, but
which we've got to get right.
Yeah, and as soon as we kind of get over that idea that there's this disconnect between Indigenous and Western knowledges, that actually they can work really well together. And like I said, Indigenous methodologies, I think, added rigour to my work.
Absolutely.
Being able to ask those critical questions from the perspective of Indigenous peoples who are marginalised and oppressed and experience colonisation from that side of it.
Yeah.
You start asking some really interesting questions that deserve answers, I guess.
And realising that the margin is not a margin. The margin is this remarkable place and space that requires texture and meaning and centrality.
Yeah.
You know? powerful. Can I just say, I had a wonderful student that did work at Charles Sturt University on Indigenous sky stories, Indigenous sky stories. So looking at astrophysics, particularly again in the secondary curriculum, huge. And for me, that's a decolonising moment, but we need more of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Extraordinary.
Exciting stuff, though.
Look, it is. It's a great time. When you sort of talk about Indigenous methodologies, I mean, I spend a lot of time, I have nothing to say or write at this juncture, but the reading I'm doing at the moment on yarning as a methodology, you know, I did oral history, oral historiography, and it is so, a lot of medical pins and needles, I get so immersed in it. I have nothing to say yet. I might not have anything to say for some decades, but I find it inspirational reading for the rest of the work that I do. Yeah,
sure, yeah. And there's a lot, I guess, being done around yarning and conversational method recently. It's really cool.
It's a booming area. It's an absolutely booming area. So let's do to the next stage, Tris. The next stage. Let's talk publications and what's been happening since the thesis, because that's an incredibly inspirational gig in itself.
Yeah. Wow. Where do we start? This is, I mean, the Department of Indigenous Studies at Macquarie Uni. We work really well as a team, and I guess with the guidance of Bronwyn, we volunteer for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, particularly the focus on social media in my thesis has led me to kind of link up really nicely with Bronwyn Carlson and another colleague, Andy Farrell, at Macquarie, looking at how Indigenous people use social media, how Indigenous people navigate negative content. There's a big focus on harmful and hate speech and that stuff at the moment. A lot of organisations such as Facebook and Twitter and that are really interested in how do we kind of identify that stuff. Yeah. So we're doing a lot of work in that space. We've got a whole bunch of invited and accepted chapters that I'm sole authoring, co-authoring on Indigenous political action online. Really excited about some translocal and Indigenous identity and digital community building. So we're writing a chapter for that for a book on global indigeneity.
Big theory.
Yeah, it's getting really it's really exciting stuff. And I guess the thesis on heavy metal, you might think is quite different from writing on Indigenous people and social media. But I'm writing a chapter on how online heavy metal spaces are a great site for Indigenous people to get this message of resistance and resilience and sovereignty and decolonisation out. And start these conversations just in little comments pages or, the Facebook comment sections and that sort of stuff. It's really cool.
Tris, this is what I wanted for you, that I wanted all, you're a truly brilliant man with a truly remarkable, spectacular brain. And what I wanted for you is all the filaments of your expertise to start to come together as a spider web. And basically that spider web can just take over the garden and then take over the world. And that's what's happening. We should probably talk about the book too, because I did read the book proposal this morning. You supposedly know one of the editors of the Deviant Leisure
I do, yeah.
series. With a big highbrow, the two wonderful editors. So Deviant Leisure is a book series at Emerald Publishing, which the wonderful Dr. Leanne McRae has also published in. And it is a wonderful book series, and so I literally read the final draft of the book proposal this morning and sent it back to you, I think about 4 o'clock this morning. And so I intend, with your permission, to send that to my colleagues for reviewing next Monday.
Yeah.
So the thesis, it is a great example of the thesis has become a book. And how do you feel about that?
Well, I'm excited. I guess, it's sometimes hard actually not to just go, well, that gives me 5 points on my research active kind of tally, In terms of the content, in terms of the thesis itself, I'm incredibly proud of what was written and what was found, and how that might be a contribution to further discussions about social media and music cultures online and how
metal studies.
Metal studies. Which is an emerging kind of space, but there's some amazing work being done in there, and it's nice to be contributing to it. So I'm excited about it. I'm really excited.
And so the thesis continues. That thesis that had its complicated journey has now got this truly wonderful explosion and ending with new audiences.
Yeah.
Last one. We did it. Last one. Look, there's people out there. Look, 2019's been a tough year for a lot of people. A tough year for us.
Yep.
We've struggled through it. We've forged a path.
Yeah.
And we were out the other side. We've managed. Wow, we've done
Yeah.
it. But for everyone out there who's having a real bad day, having a bad week, having a shocker of a month, having a really bloody dreadful year, or maybe just a shocker of a candidature. You know, they're in the middle of it and then they're just walking through treacle and then it's over their head and just... What would you say to those people?
Wow, that's...
You know, because you've all these things happened,
Yeah.
you kept going.
I guess, I mean, as you can probably tell through the discussion that we've just had, I've maybe not even purposely, but surrounded myself with truly brilliant people. Brilliant people who are supportive, brilliant people who have wonderful knowledge and are willing to share it. And these people like yourself and Professor Bronwyn Carlson, Evie and Audrey, my family.
Your wonderful mother. We should do a wonderful shout out to your mum.
My mum, hi Jo.
You're wonderful, Jo.
Have inspired me to kind of to keep going in all different sort of ways. You know, my daughter inspires me to keep going because I think what a wonderful thing for her to be able to grow up and see her father having completed. You know, Evie inspires me because we want to make this wonderful life together, and this is a way that we can do it. You know, my colleagues inspire me because I see the wonderful work they're doing, and I want to be part of that conversation. I've wanted to be part of that conversation since I finished my my undergrad. So and I'm kind of here now. It's good. So I guess you know, surrounding yourself with the right people.
Really good point.
And I don't know. Watch Tara's vlogs.
Oh, you tag? but just I often if I could bottle you, I would, because there's a grit.
There'd be a warning label.
Look, there would be, and a good night and follow, can I say? But there's a grit and a determination, but also a softness and a kindness and a decency in you that, you know, you often think such a wonderful man that's so compassionate and caring that the system would almost crush you. That's always my worry with Tris, because he's this complicated version of, you know, strong man with grit and determination and robust, but also decent and delicate and respectful and caring. But you know it's true. I adore you. You know that. But the idea that you've survived through all these things, have you just kept looking up? That's the only thing I'd say. Somebody's sort of a mate of yours and sort of ended up supervising you, and outside of this, is that you always, no matter what happened to you, you kept looking forward.
Yeah. Even if you can't see the end, you know, just keep looking for it, I suppose. I didn't see the end till right at the end, to be honest. But yeah, if you just sort of keep enduring, a PhD or any kind of big project is a test of endurance. And I kept reminding myself of that, and you know, I'm incredibly proud that I managed to endure the time that I did, and come out with it with potentially a publication.
No potential about
it.
Yeah, mate, we did it. You're a very precious part of my life, and you know that.
Thank you. You too.
And we're doing all right. So we've managed to do this. So on behalf of our families and the pair of us, we wish your families, all your friends, a fantastic holiday, a fantastic celebration. And in that celebration, there are always those moments of pause and reflection, and do take those, but enjoy the time. And I suppose what Tris has always taught me is enjoy every day. Find the joy, find the happiness, find the light in every single day. So TNT wish you love, light and peace. Happy Christmas.
Thanks.
I got through it with
there
that
we go.
How did that feel?
Yeah, good.
Oh,
Good.
mate.
I hope I stayed on track.
Oh, you were magnificent.
Yeah, good.
We went places I didn't know you'd go. Oh, hell. Oh, that was fantastic.